Love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru. Really? That's love? Or we love that new series on Netflix. Or my dog loves those treats. We use the word love a lot in our language. We use it from everything to describe food that we really like to how we feel about our parents, our spouses, our partners, our children. When the Beatles sang "All You Need Is Love" in the 1960s, did we really believe that if we only flashed the peace sign and embraced love and said love will make everything better, all the world's problems will be solved without doing much in return? What does it mean to love? Love is a beautiful thing, another song goes. And yet as we talk about love for one another and Jesus' commandment to love, we know that this is much more than loving a car, a series on TV, or a particular food. We heard Jesus say, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. As I have loved you. You are my friends. If you do what I command you, no greater love is than this, than to lay down one's life for one's friends." Love as compassion, as empathy, as reaching out. Love that is mutual, a hand extending out and a hand extending back. As Jesus speaks about love, he's expanding on last Sunday's words about how when we abide in him, he abides in us, and he is the vine and we are the branches, and we find life in him by that abiding and by recognizing how we are connected one to another through the gift of love. But Jesus shares these words with his friends, the disciples, on the night before he was to give his life. And he wants to give them a way of understanding of what it means to continue this work that they've done together. And he speaks to them about love. And you notice, as it was read today, he says this over and over again. I command you to love one another as I have loved you. He has to give the disciples some background, some understanding, because just like us today, love is used in lots of different ways, but what is Jesus really saying? In the Greek, the word that Jesus is using here for friendship is a noun that we know means to love. And it doesn't mean just a casual acquaintance, but it means someone who is beloved, someone who is dear to one's heart. In the Gospel of John, this word is used to describe Jesus' relationship with his cousin, John the Baptist. And it's used to describe Jesus' love for his friend Lazarus. But we could be under the impression that Jesus is just telling us to love the people who are closest to us, the people that we know the best, or maybe even the people we like, that are we only to love the people who are in our narrow group of closest friends and family members. But remember what Jesus means by the command to love. Love one another as I have loved you. Who did Jesus love? He loved more than his mother. He loved more than his friends. Jesus loved those who were excluded, those who were ostracized, those that the others didn't like the tax collectors. Jesus demonstrated that he loved those who were seen as little or under or below in society. Jesus loved the children. Jesus loved those who were in need of healing. Jesus loved all. Jesus loved all. So when he says, love one another as I have loved you, he's asking us to embrace that kind of love. The kind of love that asks us to lay down our life for one's friends. Now, sometimes we think that if we say lay down your life for one's friends, we're thinking that we have to literally die. And many times we might think about this in the course of someone serving in the military who gives their life, for not only for the country, but often for a fellow military person who is with them. Or I was thinking about how many of us use this kind of language for those who have been essential workers, who have been checking us out at the grocery store, or those who are in the medical field. Yeah, that immediately comes to mind, that these are people who are literally putting their lives at risk for humanity, for people they do not know. But Jesus says, love one another as I have loved you. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to lay down and die. There's times and places and experiences in our daily lives where we are called to give our lives in love for another. And we're called to be friends, not just to the people closest to us, but all. To take the risks required to love one another, to give our lives for one another, because we are chosen by God. We are chosen by God and sent out into the world in love. So what might that be? Well, those of us who are parents know that we have given our lives for our children. There are many times when some of us might have just gone like this and said, what was I thinking? And yet we will sacrifice ourselves as parents for the sake of our children. That many of us would say we would give our very lives for our children. But there's other times when we may be giving our life to someone when we may not even know it. When someone comes into our lives and they need that word of hope, or they need that word of acceptance, or they need to hear from us that they too are a beloved child of God, that is giving of our lives. I was thinking, we give our lives when we have a to-do list and a busy calendar, but we ignore that to-do list in order to be list, to be with someone who needs our attention at that moment. How many times have one of us been in a hurry to go someplace and we have been confronted by someone who needs us, maybe not even somebody we know, and we stop. We're giving our lives to another at that moment. We have been chosen by God to love one another and to serve one another as Jesus has loved us. I invite us all to think about where in our lives today we may be called, we may be the chosen one to bring that love to someone that we didn't even know. Where have we been called and chosen to give love to, yes, our family members and friends? But Jesus reminds us that it's the whole world, it's everybody in it, that we are called to love. And then he gives this promise to the disciples. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. He's reminding us that there is something about abiding in that love, that there's a special kind of joy that comes when we're living out our chosenness and when we're loving those, especially those whom others do not love. And being connected, reminding ourselves of the love we receive in that vine and that we are the branches, there is a joy in being connected. That life and community and caring for one another brings us a deeper and deeper understanding of joy and friendship and of love of God. Amen.